Hi, gals. I'm sorry. I'm like trying to figure out how to share my screen on when it's on, or I can't turn my camera on. Hi, we're gonna start. Happy Tuesday. I almost said happy Thursday. It's fine. Happy Tuesday. We're gonna do a power hour together tonight. And hopefully it will be good. I'm trying to do a few power hours to set you up for the new year. So if you've been doing the ones I've been doing live, hopefully this will just be like a nice addition, and then we'll do a little inviting work at the end. So we're just gonna get started. And I posted this tracker in the tribe if you want to print it afterwards or whatever, but this is what we're gonna go through. So for those of you that did the signature challenge power hour, I want you to kind of keep that in mind as we go through this one. I think it'll help a lot. If you haven't done that power hour, it's no big deal. You can still do this one. Just when you do that other one, it'll make it pop just a little bit more. So the one thing that I really wanted to talk about or reiterate tonight, and I think I'm going to do a volume power hour next week. I know a few of you have asked about that specifically, and I almost did it tonight, but I just didn't feel like I had enough time to like really put it together. So I'm just going to do that one next week. But I did work on it and I do have it, just so you know. But I wanted to just like really quickly give you just kind of a coaching tip in a nutshell. Okay. So when you're looking at your business and you're like, oh my gosh, I want it to grow. I want it to grow. What do I focus on? Like where specifically? Because I can't have 15 arms and legs. Like I have to be able to focus in enough on one or two things to make it happen. And at the end of the day, our business is built entirely on volume. Our income is built entirely on volume. And the only way to get volume is through sales. That's it. It's that simple. So anything that you're trying to accomplish, anything that you're trying to really build, whenever you sit down and you're like feeling stuck or you're feeling plateaued or you're like, how do I get to the next level? And you sit down and try and make a plan, it really does come down to your sponsorships and your sales. And that's really it. You know what I mean? And the more results that you get from those sponsorships and sales, the more sales and sponsorships you'll get. So it's really, that's really kind of the formula. It's really sell, get people results and repeat. And that's it. So even when you like sponsor your own coaches or when you sponsor your challengers, if you think in your mind, like, how can I create more volume? How can I create more volume in the sense of like, which tools can they use that will help them? Which placement can I put them in where they're going to benefit from the volume of the team the most? Like everything is really geared around that. So even with Success Club, like understanding how much Success Club 5, how much volume generates for you from that, like what your income is going to do by hitting that, I think is really key. So that's one of the things that I wanted to talk about on the volume call is just really breaking it down and helping you understand that like our business is so people oriented. And it really has to be. That's really where it starts. We have to have people to make sales. We have to have people to get results too. We have to, you know, in order to make change and make an impact and do all the things that we want to do, like we can't be afraid of that. We have to really understand why we're doing the things that we're doing and how they actually connect to everything else, right? So that's what this power hour is about. It's really defining those things. And I think heading into this new year, especially, it's really important. And I'm just going to ask you guys to kind of let go of any like preconceptions you've had, any bad mojo you've had around any of these topics. I want you to like not stress if you don't know everything. I really want you to come to the table tonight and really just try to connect the dots, really understand like what is my relationship to sponsoring challengers? What is my relationship to sponsoring coaches? Is it fear-based? Is it faith-based? Am I excited? Does this bring me joy? Like, where are we really at with it? But I want you to really define it in a way that feels positive to you, that feels like it's going to lead you to that ultimate goal that you've set for yourself, becoming a coach, whatever that is. And also, how does this connect to your signature challenge? Does your signature challenge produce results in these areas for you? Because my number one goal as a sponsor is to help your business grow and duplicate simply by showing up every day and just doing coaching the way that you do it. Like, that to me is the ultimate goal. I'm successful because this is how I operate in this space. This is how I coach people. This is how I challenge people. This is how I get results from people. And I love the idea that you can show up in an authentic way and that can produce mass success. I've seen it. I've experienced it. I know it's possible. And that's really what my goal for 2023 is for our whole team, is just to really help you guys dial in exactly what you love to do, focus on that, build your business around that, and forget the rest, right? Like Tony always says, do your best, forget the rest. Okay. So, let's start. I was going to go over the mental note, but we don't really need to go through that. So the first thing that I want to start over, is your passion. So if you've done the signature challenge, you've already kind of done this, but I want you, for those of you that haven't, I want you to identify the thing that you love the most in our business. What do you love helping people do? Like, what is the most exciting part? I'm going to give you like 5 minutes, and I just want you to kind of write it out. You can brainstorm it. You can just kind of start writing if you don't really know what that is yet. Whatever you need to do. So I'm going to put some music on, and then I'll give you 5 minutes. Gotta find my calm music. And then if you're feeling really good, you can post in the chat what that passion point is for you. Okay. We're going to move through this because I think most of you have done the signature power hour, but Angie said, she loves getting someone started, helping them find a program to do start to finish. I love that too. Introducing them to the community and have them realize their support for them, celebrating their wins of finishing a program and having them share their victories. So would you say that you love, like, how would you sum that up into one thing? Like, what is that process for you? I love putting people into a community. Is this, I love giving people structure. I love giving people support. I love giving people accountability. It kind of encompasses everything. So if you could get somebody started, do you feel accomplished? Or does the accomplishment for you, where does the accomplishment part of it start for you? That part I think is really important, because I think there's a lot of different elements that we love. I think the parts where we feel the most accomplished, where we feel productive, where we feel like we made a difference is really where you're going to shine. And if you can funnel all of your activity to reaching that point with each person, then I think you just work differently. You support them differently. You provide structure differently. You give them different tools. You just show up so differently when you know you have that end goal, that end day in mind where that program is going to complete, where you're going to post that celebratory, post and picture and story and all of that stuff. So I love that. For me, it's definitely getting people started on the work that's really going to make a difference in their life. I think there's a lot of ways people can start on this path. I think a lot of people have started on this path and not really done it in a way that really is lasting. That's why a lot of people come to Beachbody at the end of the day, because either they haven't had the structure, community, accountability, or support that they've needed in the past. So providing that work for them, that structure, is just so rewarding to me when I can really equip someone's confidence. That's what I really love. I love equipping people with the confidence that they can accomplish anything that they put their mind to, and that they really do have the tools, and that they came with those, and we can find them if they're lost. We can fix them if they're broken. We can really put all those pieces back in place, because when I started my journey, I was looking everywhere but within myself for people to take care of me. Like I was constantly yearning and needing something to feel taken care of. And I didn't realize, I'd never experienced what self-care really was until I did Beachbody, until I started and finished a program and I got results, and nobody else could have done that for me. Right. And so I think really defining that, Angie, like really narrowing it down is really important. Margaret, you said, I love working directly with someone who has a fitness and health journey, then support regularly. I feel the most accomplished when I see someone take off on their journey. I love that. I think that that's so key, because that really ties into, okay, they are equipped, they are confident, they are like doing it now, like unaided, like they can go out and just really explore this part of their life. One thing that I really love too is when people start to branch out. Like, I know people get scared of that. But when people are like, oh, I'm going to start biking, or I'm going to start hiking, or I'm going to like start boxing, or I'm going to go to a gym and start yoga. I'm like, yes, like it planted, like this lifestyle is rooted down. And that is when I know that it worked. Right. So there's always these little tells of accomplishment too that you have during the process. And I think when you can really identify what those are, and you can start to see that happening before your eyes in your challenge groups, it helps you again show up in different ways for them and really celebrate those wins. Kaylee said, mine is the same as last week: impact and the power that comes from that initial impact. So Kaylee, what does that mean? What is impact? What is the definition of that? Because impact can mean a lot of different things. So I'm curious what specifically that is. I'm just going to unmute. Okay, go.
Can you hear me? Yeah. I think for me, it's the impact in that transformation, like the impact in finding what works for them and then watching them run with the tools that they've utilized, like that initial impact, like the aha, I get it moment.
the aha moment. So it's really like them utilizing the tools and seeing how they work.
Mm-hmm.
It's really like trusting the tools and seeing how they work. Because it
Yes.
is really cool. Like when you do have somebody, especially who has like not really felt the community or support or had the right tools, when they are like, that's it, like this is the program that I have to focus on, and then I just drink my shake every day and that's it. And you're like, yeah, go, like run.
Yeah.
And they're like, what else though? And you're like, nothing, like that's it. And it's like, do I have to be perfect? No. You could do it 5 days a week or 3 days a week or 4 days a week. Like pick what's going to work for you. I think that mindset and gifting that to someone where they can just completely take the reins. I would say, Kaylee, that's really more what it is like helping people take the reins back, like take the reins of their own journey completely. Like I know now what nutrition works for me and what doesn't. I now know what exercise works for me and what doesn't. I now know how many days a week and what timing works perfect for me with workouts. I need 30 minutes, I need 4 days a week, and I'm solid, right? Like I think when you can, kind of like what Margaret was saying, like when you can really see them take off in that aspect, it's so fulfilling. But it's so cool when you can really identify that, because then when you create your challenge group to support that specific thing, then, and not just like, here's the tools, here's the workouts, here's the program, here's whatever, but it's really like, you're going to start choosing from here on out. This is your choice. This is something I think that's so important for me in that getting started right process with my challengers is from the instant that we start having conversations, I let them make the decisions 100%. I give them the options and I say, I want you to choose. Like, you tell me if this sounds like it's something that is going to work for you. You tell me if 4 days a week is going to work or 30 minutes a day. I think the more you can really equip people with that choice from the get-go, it really builds that culture in them and really builds that confidence. So when you are creating kind of those signature challenges and your goal is to really see someone fly, you can't be afraid when they do. And I think a lot of coaches don't like that. They're like, oh, they like left the challenge group or like they whatever. But I think really learning, it's kind of like raising your kids. Like once they leave the nest, you're like, okay, bye. Like, I hope that you can survive out there on your own. Let's pray we did enough work. Like that's kind of what it's like in your challenge groups, right? Like you hope that they're equipped enough, but there's never going to be a time where they don't need you, where they don't appreciate you, where they don't like have that desire to come back home at some point and stay really connected to that pillar of support that you've created in their life. So once you kind of identify your passion, now the tricky part, I think, for a lot of people is really understanding the work activity, like understanding the work that goes into finding the people to help. Right? Like that's where people get burned out. That's where their energy is lost. That's where they like detach a little bit because it's hard work. Like it's not easy gaining a customer. It's definitely not easy gaining a coach. And it's for sure not easy keeping them and really helping them actually succeed in this goal that you have in mind. Right? Like I think all of us have experienced failure in either category and been like, what am I doing wrong? And sometimes like it isn't you, sometimes it really is them. And I think that part of it gets tricky. So the most important thing is really staying true to why you're here, not why they are, why you are. And that is hard, right? Because when other people start to kind of dictate what's going on around you, you really have to test yourself and be like, okay, am I still focused on X, Y, and Z, or have I diverted off to try and make everybody happy, to try and please every single person? That's very challenging. So I think when it comes to sponsorship, Success Club, income, there has to be a pretty deeply embedded connection between those things and your purpose, like why you're here. What does sponsorship mean for your purpose, right? Like why do you have to sponsor people? What would sponsoring people bring to that process for you? Like Angie, you like what you were saying, like the challenge group process is really where your passion is, but unless you have people Nobody's going through that. So when you're not sponsoring, you probably feel very defeated and very unfulfilled, right? But it only takes like one or two people that are really diving into that process, that are really committed to that challenge group, that could change everything for you, that whole perspective. I think we get caught up sometimes too on the quantity, because there's so much, like, we think we have to do so much in order to like make it work. But what I'm discovering is what I've always kind of worked by, which is the quality over quantity mentality. Like, if you really dedicated yourself to 10 people instead of 100 people, think about the results those 10 people could produce because of the quality you were able to put into that journey for them. And that's why I think the signature challenge is important too, because it's meaningful to you. So capping it and making sure that you aren't so spread thin. Like, Margaret, I know you love to coach people one-on-one. How many people can you quality coach one-on-one? Like, without trying to blanket approach everything. Like, you really have to think about it. I could probably coach 5 people a week. Like, if I had 5 real legitimate clients, that's 1 hour a day to coaching for each person, right? Like, when you really think about it that way, you guys, most of the time, it's a much smaller quantity, right? And I think we get in our heads like it has to be this mass quantity in order for it to work, and it's not true. I've seen huge incomes, huge organizations happen because these coaches had 1 or 2 leaders that was really killing it. And they had 1 or 2 leaders that was really killing it. And they had 1 or 2 leaders really killing it. It wasn't like one person had 50, right? And so I think that's really more the mindset, is duplicating that quality over quantity. And that's really what brings that quality and quantity over time. You're not responsible for all of that. In fact, what you're really trying to do is spread that workload. Like, you're trying to teach quality over quantity so that your coaches can stay energized and passionate and excited. You're trying to kind of spread that workload even with your challengers so that they can focus entirely on themselves and really transform with like permanent, lasting result, not with like, I just got to wait for the next challenge. I got to wait for the next timing that works. I got to try the next new product. No, like, you want them to be making calculated decisions every step of the way, eventually, in this part of their journey. And so here's what I want to do for these next couple sections. I want you to think through sponsorship, and I want you to define what that means to you. Why do I need to sponsor people? Both coaches and challengers. That's your question. Why do I need to do this? And if I do, what does that mean for my bottom line? How does that help me stay in my joy? How does that help me achieve what I came here to achieve? How does that connect? I want you to do the same thing with Success Club. Why do I need to focus on Success Club specifically? And if you think about Success Club, that's new sponsorship each month, and it's subscription-based sales. So those are the two kind of elements. Why do I need that? And then your very last one is the income. Why is that important? What does that allow for you? If you had more of it, what would you do with it? What could you do with it? What does that mean? Okay, so I'm going to give us a few minutes. I'm just going to make this a little bigger if you want to read the fine print. But these things are important because these are parts of our business that aren't going to go away. And they're also parts of our business that really help us accomplish what we came here to do. It's really just understanding that we need people. We need people to invest in themselves and invest in not just Beachbody products, but your idea. They need to invest in this concept that you're trying to get across. Like, I want you to be able to come into my group, get the structure, accountability, and support that you need so that you can become fully equipped and take the reins in this journey, maybe for the first time in your life, right? It's really, really trying to understand the selling points, because you're not just selling Shakeology. You're not just selling BOD or Body. You're not just selling a challenge pack. You're selling this idea and this philosophy and this vision that you have for the person that you're trying to bring in and coach. So that's what you're selling. And if you don't know what that is, or none of, this work activity that you're doing is attached or connected to that vision, you struggle, you burn out, you overwhelm, you get sucked into everybody else's drama or distracted, and you waste a lot of time. Right? Okay, I'm going to give us a good solid 10 or so minutes to think through these, and then we're going to talk through them. Sometimes it's really helpful. I'm just going to give you guys a tip to kind of, if you're like having what's the word? Like a block in one of the areas, like there's like a fear so big there that you can't like think clearly or positively or in the right mindset with it. One thing that I really like to do is I like to like pick the word that is like my biggest fear in that area first, and I'll write it down. And then I'll kind of like physically try and push that out of the way or off to the side. So like, let's just give you an example. So sponsorship, like my biggest fear with sponsorship always is the responsibility of it. When I think sponsorship, when I think about the hard or like the ugly parts of it, for me, it's responsibility. You're now responsible for these people. You're now responsible to these people. You're now responsible for their success. That's a big weight for me to carry because I care about people so much. And I think about the responsibility of time, right? Like that's like my big thing there. So with that out of the way, not thinking about that, sponsorship is important for my business because X, Y, and Z. Does that make sense? Sometimes that helps you just kind of remove that piece of it. And usually by really defining what it's going to benefit you for, it almost eliminates that fear-based part of it for you because you can then focus on that more positive side of it because it's always more valuable to you than the fear, right? It's super simple, but it's really effective. Okay, while you guys are writing, I'm going to share my feedback on this because I think that this is kind of an important thing. So with sponsorship, that's really the only one of these three things that I really have a block with right now. That's been like a little bit harder for me. And I think it's mostly because I really, you guys know, like it's just been a little weird. Like the company's changed so much. Things are crazy. Like people are coming and going constantly. It's just been really hard to kind of grasp why I'm here. And I think it's because, again, you get unfocused based on what other people are doing and you lose sight of why you came. So you really do have to kind of take a step back and be like, no, it doesn't matter what anyone else is doing here. They're responsible for that. I'm here because of this and this and this. So the sponsorship is really where I had that block. And I think, again, it came down to responsibility. And sometimes when we don't feel like we're taking care of ourselves well enough, it's impossible to take care of other people, right? And so you kind of attend to your needs first and then branch out from there. So once you have that capacity and energy again to really put into, what do I want to help people do? What do I want to build? What do I want to create? Some of these blocks kind of start to work themselves out. So sponsorship for me, the block was that responsibility, just taking on people and things that I just did not have the capacity for. So that's what it is. That's kind of the block. The solution here for me, and the reason why sponsorship is so important for my bottom line, for my vision, for what I'm trying to accomplish here, is because it creates energy for me. Sponsorship is a constant change, and I need that. I'm somebody who gets bored really fast. I'm somebody who like can plateau and stagnate, and I can't afford to do that. Like, I'm too adventurous. I'm too energetic. I have to have new blood, new people, new things surrounding me a lot. And so sponsorship for me is literally that lifeline. That is how I keep the energy high, my creativity high. That's how I am stimulated. That change equals growth. And the more people that are coming in and going out, it's moving, right? It's that movement in my business that I have to feel that, because that to me equals growth, and growth is my number one priority in almost every circumstance in life. And I want you guys to kind of identify, as you're writing some of your stuff out, if there's a common theme for you. Okay. With Success Club, it's really interesting because Success Club is directly defined by my own personal effort. I defined that a long time ago, 11 years ago, when I really started to dive into Success Club. It became my personal measure of, am I showing up present every single month and pushing for this business? Am I working for it? Or am I just wanting and wishing and hoping that it's going to come to me? That became my measure for that. So for Success Club, it really is my effort every single month. And it's about not plateauing and stagnating and just being compliant and helping the same people over and over and over again, because that's easier. That's what Success Club means to me. It's not the points. It's not the volume. It's not the income. It's 100% about people and new people every single month. I'm not here to just help the same people over and over and over, because if I'm helping the same people over and over and over, I'm not actually helping them. Right? What am I helping them do? I'm enabling them. That is not what I want to do. I want to help people and I want them to fly. Right? So again, Success Club is really just growth. Like, am I growing every single month? Is my team growing every single month? Is my challenge group growing every month? Are my sales growing? This is a measurement of growth. Again, my number one priority. Okay. The last and final thing is income. And this is a really easy thing for me. For some people, this is very complex and very complicated. For me, money is fun. Money has always been fun. Money has always been a positive thing. Money has always been something that came easy for me, that I don't mind chasing, that I love chasing, that I think is just a fun part of life. But it's also one of the hardest parts of life for a lot of people. And so for me, the income part of it is helping people stress less, helping me have less stress around it. It's really creating freedom so I can continue doing what I want and making sure everything else is taken care of, right? It really is providing that freedom. And for me, I would rather have a growth mindset with income over a plateaued mindset, a ceiling mindset, a stuck mindset. This is the best it's going to get mindset. Like, I can't make any more money mindset. I don't want to live in that space. I always want to be free in this area. One of the coolest parts of income for me is it's a very good indicator of movement. If my business is growing, it goes up. If my business is not growing, it's the same or it declines. Super simple. That's how I look at income. Did I make more than I did last week? Awesome. Does the amount always matter? Sometimes it matters more than others. When I was a first-time coach, it mattered a lot. I was 6 figures in debt and living on food stamps. Money mattered, but never to the point of a scarcity mindset, a plateaued mindset, a stuck mindset. It was always a motivator for me. It was always a way out, right? It was always a way to give more. If I had more, I could give more. If I am taken care of that way, then I can spend my time and stress in other areas. And that is so important. So again, income is just another measurement of growth. That's it. And when I look at my business, when I look at anything that I'm doing, even in my challenge groups, my one-on-one conversations, if growth is happening, then I'm happy. If growth is not happening, I'm freaking miserable. And I don't care who it is, what's happening. If it's stale and no growth is happening, I will lose myself completely. And that, I would say, is probably another big factor why I had to really take a step back this year. It wasn't growing, right? And so I had to be like, how can I get back to this growth phase? I have to be, and I know there's people oriented this way. I know this is what people want. I have to be able to provide that. And I didn't feel like I was. So when you look at your answers, when you think about sponsorship, what are some of the things that you wrote down? Like, why does this matter to you? Can you identify kind of a theme in all three of them? Like I did. It really all comes down to growth, a measurement of growth for me. Just going to give you a couple more minutes to kind of think through that and post your comments if you want to. And then we'll move on to this next part. Margaret said, I wrote about the ripple effect, impact, and living on purpose in each. That is really important to me in the season of my life. I love that. I love it. I think being present, I think that leaving an impact and a legacy is so important. I think if you can build something that really does have a ripple effect that's lasting is so important. That really comes down. I think that real specific work is so valuable. And I think the more you talk about that being the reason why you're here and just being very intentional, like actively wanting to help other people learn some of this earlier, than it took you or whatever. I mean, I think that that's so valid. If you could put one word to that, what would that be? Angie said, new coaches are important, pushes me to continue to grow. Also, having new coaches is a way to help reach a greater income. Yeah, I love that. New challengers bring in new, fresh excitement. That's so true. What's interesting is a lot of this is geared around our challengers, but when you really apply all of this stuff to your coaches, it's almost a completely different story. It's almost like a continuation or like a elevation of your challenger story, because with coaches, you have a different purpose and they serve a different purpose for you. right? Your challengers fuel one piece of that joy for you. If you went back through this whole exercise and you were only thinking about coaches, would your answers change? They should, right? There's a different purpose between your challenger and your coach. So really understanding that part of it too, I think is so key. And we're focusing so much on the challenger, which I think is important because that's the first step. But as a leader, and as you start to onboard new coaches, you really have to have kind of a vision where all this fits in for them too. You know what I mean? Like, what is that fulfilling for you? What part of that process brings you joy? And how can you duplicate that? How can you create a signature path for your coach to become successful in the areas that you envision, right? And this is so important because I think when you bring on new coaches, you kind of bring on their vision too, and you're like trying to fulfill their vision for them. But that's not really our job. Their job is to fulfill their vision. Your job is to fulfill yours, right? So where do they come into play with that? And I think really defining that is so important, and making sure that we don't cross those boundaries or cross those lines, like dehumanizing people to get what we need or what we want is really what I mean by that, right? Like forcing somebody who wants to be at an emerald level, who's happy with the business they have, who loves the income in the community, and they're happy, into a next step that they're not comfortable with. It's really understanding where they're happy, where they love to live, where they're healthiest, and cultivating and supporting support for that, right? So we're not going to go too much into that. That's for like a separate day. I think that is almost like you have to separate that activity or else it kind of blends all into each other. Kaylee said, new sponsorship is important to keep things fresh and energized, but also to constantly produce income. Building with coaching helps promote team volume. So true. Success Club goes hand in hand with that above. That's so true. Everything is connected. It's all about people, sales, right? Like you find people, they invest, they get results from that investment, which makes them usually want to keep investing or make more sales, which gives back to their results even more. It's all really connected. And when you really look at that in a positive way, it becomes less about what people need and more about what people want. And for me, that's always a much more fun place to live, right? Like I would way rather be like, Angie, what do you want to do than what do you need to get done? Like, what do you need to do? There's just a different pressure and stress added to that. So if you can get to a point with your challenger or with your coach where your decisions are being made based on what they want instead of what they need, that is transformative. That is what Beachbody gave to me. It gave me the ability to choose what I wanted to do with my health and fitness, with my nutrition, with my finances. It gave me the choice for that, right? Whereas before I was super stuck. I was dealing with depression, which I couldn't control. I was dealing with a ton of different things that way, which I couldn't control. I was dealing with financial strain that was out of control, right? I was out of control of all of that. And Beachbody really gave me a path to kind of gain control of all of that and start living from a healthier, happier place. So one thing that I will say along those lines, Kaylee, because I think it's so important, is with our coaches, you know, one of my big things that I really want to step into and just be a lot more vocal and a lot more confident about is my relationship with money and what it can do for people in the best ways. Because I think society puts so much pressure and life experience puts so much negativity on it, right? Like my husband grew up super, super poor, like debilitatingly poor. And so his mindset around money is polar opposite from me. Like we spend money differently, we save money differently, we think about it differently. Like he met me and I was like, oh, we have to make money, that's fine, whatever. He's like, I have to get a master's degree, I have to go to college, I have to have a steady job, I have to work 40 hours a week, I have to have benefits. Like it was like night and day difference. And I'm like, I could go to hair school. Like, I'm just going to rent my own booth and like make my own money, whatever, like completely different. And so just even seeing the ways that each of our relationships with that have impacted each other in really positive ways is just so fascinating when you really take that aspect with our coaches. So for me, that's something I definitely want to just bring more confidence into, because I think if I could provide a path for people to have more money to play with, like to me, that is like everything, because I want people to feel happier and healthier and enjoy their life more. So I was telling Margaret, I think a few weeks ago or whatever, and I was like, what if you could like go do a bike ride of a lifetime, like in some other country, and like Beachbody could pay for you to go to France and ride like the Tour de France trail or something. You know what I mean? Like it's like incredible. But if that's like the one thing that your Beachbody income gave you, was life-changing. Right. And like when you look at your Beachbody business that way, I think sometimes we put so much pressure on ourselves to be at a certain level or be at a certain rank or doing certain things. But at the end of the day, like if everything you were doing was manageable and simple and made you happy, and it was giving back to you in ways where your debt was going down and you were having more ability to play with your finances and give back the way that you wanted to and two things that you wanted to, like what else can we ask for? That's awesome, right? Okay, so the last kind of little exercise we're going to do tonight is, because I don't think we're going to get to the post party, but that's fine. I think this has been a really good discussion, is the networking, connecting, and inviting. And really understanding and connecting those three pieces as well, because that's the stuff that we do every day, right? Like that's the stuff that's drilled into us all the time that gets monotonous, that we're like, why are we doing this? Is this even working? So when you think about this, I'm just going to kind of guide this section, because I think networking is really you going out there and cultivating opportunity for yourself. That is you saying, I'm not waiting for this to happen for me. I'm not expecting someone else to do this for me. I'm not just going to sit here and ingest. I'm going to take action and I'm going to do. And let me tell you, the more networking you do, the stronger foundation you build for people to eventually just start coming to you and you having to go out less for it. That's what networking can provide. Connection, honestly, you guys, connection is 100% about people attaching and emotionally connecting with your vision and what you're providing. It's really what you're selling, right? Like that's the connection piece. They want what you have to offer, what you're focused on, what you are passionate about, like your joy. Like if your process and what brings you joy is getting people started, put all of your energy and drive into that. And I guarantee you, people who need that structure, accountability, and support in that area will flock to you. The connection piece of this is really you staying connected to your joy, you staying connected to your purpose, you not getting distracted by what everybody else is doing or switching up your goals because you think they need to be different, staying 100% true to why you are here. That's the connection piece. And when you have those conversations and you start inviting people, right, it's really getting them to buy into that vision. Yes, I want to feel confident. I want to feel equipped. I want to take the reins in this part of my life. I don't want this to be a sore spot anymore. I want to be happy here, right? Like I want to be healthy and I want to be happy. And I don't care what that looks like anymore. I just know what I want that to feel like. Like those are some of the things that I think when you're really trying to invite people or attract people or market, when you're really trying to build connection for people, so that you can build a following, so that the people you network with can attach to you. Like the more you talk about those things that you're passionate about, the more that will just naturally happen. And again, people will just start coming to you. And so the third part of it, the invitation, the invite part, is what leads to sponsorship, which for me means growth. It means it's working. It means I'm connected. It means that I'm helping people attach to what they want to do. And I'm building and equipping them with that confidence to take the next step in it. You know what I mean? Because I can't even tell you guys how many, this is so crazy, but I think I was 20, when was 2011? 11 years ago? So I was 29, almost 20, just barely 29, I think, when I started coaching. I'm 40. I just turned 40. Think about that. The difference between being 29 and 40, right? Like, that's a big gap. There's a lot of life in between that. But even back then, do you guys know that my median aged challenger was in their late 30s and early 40s because they had no idea who they were? And all I talked about was, I know who I am. I know what I want. And I was 100% confident in who I was, even back then. There were things I didn't like and things I wanted to change, but I have always known who I am. And I think that that really came across in those connective pieces. Like, here's how you can do that. Here's how you can start that journey. Here's how you can equip yourself to become more confident, to eliminate these things in your life that you don't like. If you're self-conscious, we can fix that. If you're not confident, we can fix that. If you're unhealthy or you're out of shape and you want that to change, we can change that. That's why I think it was so powerful. And it was so eye-opening to me at that time that these women would come to me even back then. And I'm like, it's just because I'm an old soul. That's what I would always say. I'm like, it's just because I wasn't brand new when I was born. I got reincarnated or something. I don't know. And I thought that they were just connecting kind of with that piece of me. But I really think it's because, especially for women, you either have it and you're equipped with it, or you don't. And I think one of the coolest parts about our job is when you can really teach people how to take care of themselves, right? Like, stay very true to what they need, not what everybody else is saying that they need. But you can say, yeah, you can work out for 20 minutes, 2 days a week. That's great. Guess how much more confident they feel when you validate what they think they need. You have to really pay attention to those things. So when you're really thinking about the invitation, right, and that growth, it's connected directly to your vision, which is connected directly to why you're networking in the first place. It's all connected, every single part of this, every single aspect of this. And I think the coolest part about it is when you can really define it all down, when you can really show up and understand how all the working parts fit together to bring together this kind of vision for you, this ultimate goal of getting people started, or getting people finished, or celebrating their wins, or all of these different things that we said, the reason why we're here. Like, it's so much more fulfilling, and the work becomes so much different than just, oh, I got to show up and join a power hour today. You know what I mean? Like, you start to almost work smaller, meaning you're not trying to get 100 invites. You're not trying to network with 100 people. You're trying to have one meaningful conversation a day. And if you have one a day, and that one conversation ends up taking over your entire week, but you end up getting a new challenger and getting someone started and getting them in your challenge group, 100% worth it. All that time, right? And that's why I say every single problem that we have in our business can be fixed with a sale, with a sponsorship, because that is the very first step towards that person really fulfilling that vision, right, that you've built for them. And I love that. You guys, if you think about it this way, you're really planting the seed of a vision for people to start with. Once they really understand that they can think bigger, and you've expanded their horizon and made them feel oh, something better can happen in this particular area of my life, or something bigger is out there, and you can really share that perspective with them, what ends up happening is they start cultivating visions of their own. That is another sign that what you're doing is working. That is another sign of this is working. This this is so fulfilling. Like, I took and from a coach perspective specifically, if you bring in a coach and you're like, oh my gosh, like you can make extra money, like let's get you Emerald, right? Like you're so zoned into this very small box when you first start coaching. But as time goes by, you start to broaden that perspective. You start to see bigger and better things. You start to understand that there's so much more opportunity there. And you start what? Cultivating a vision of your own. You start to think, this is the kind of team that I want. This is how I want to lead it. This is what I would love to be able to do. Like, and then you just start planting your own little seeds. And by the time you're doing that, like, you're ready. Like, you're equipped. You have the ability to create your own vision at that point. And it's your sponsor's job. And it's your job as the sponsor to cultivate that for them. They may not want all of the things that you hope for them, right? And so that's why I think when you look at this stuff from a coach perspective, the way that your fulfillment needs to come is in other areas, because a lot of our challengers are going to fulfill our vision, right? Our income, our growth, our ability to get results for people, that change and that transformation. When you have coaches, it's really them creating that for themselves, and you really just supporting and cheering them on and being like, oh, here's the factual information. Like, you decide what you want to do with it, and then I'll support that. And that's because the lines are so different. I think if you try and do it the same way, it doesn't work. But if you approach your coaches differently than you approach your challengers, it's so much healthier and it's so much easier and it's so much better. So I would love to do a call on this with coaching as well. I think once you have a working coach, this is a really great exercise to sit down and do, and make sure that you've got a quality vision in place for your coaches that is separate from your challengers. They're two separate entities, but they're both under the same umbrella, right? Okay, let's see. Quality over quantity, committed coaches and challengers. I love that, Julie. I think that's awesome. Okay, it's after 8, so I'll let you guys go. This was really good. I appreciate all of your feedback. I feel like it's really hard to get people to talk right now, like to talk back, to like provide feedback. And for me, that's like everything. Like, I don't ever want to just be having a conversation with myself. And so much of the time I feel like I am, that I'm trying to be like, what's everyone thinking? What's everyone doing? Just to kind of pull that out, because I think when you're able to kind of speak up and share like what's important to you, it helps everyone. You know what I mean? It helps us connect better to each other. So, okay, I'll see you guys next week. I love you. I'm excited for this new schedule in 2023 with the Beyond Emerald call and the new Coach Basic call. And hopefully this was helpful. I don't have the Network Power Hour this week. I do have it next week, if you want to just note that, on Thursday at 7 a.m. Okay. Okay. I'll see you guys in the tribe.